Hello, this is Paul with pseudosonic.com, and this video is the first in the series for the Yamaha MODX. Normally in the first video, what I like to do is kind of describe some of the keyboard's capabilities and kind of glaze over some of its functionality, and this helps people decide if it's a keyboard that they think they would be able to use in their studio, if it's going to do everything they want it to do. Also, I want to clarify that this video isn't inclusive where it shows everything about the keyboard. This is just an introductory video. So in this series that's available for purchase at pseudosonic.com, you get all the other lessons that shows you how to do everything with the keyboard. And this is available to be purchased in Blu-ray format or in download format. And it's not available in DVD. We get this question a lot because DVD does not support the resolution that this is filmed at. It's shot in 1080p, and that's how you have good clarity on the button labels and also on the screen menus. So you do need that format. So if you don't have a Blu-ray player, you'd probably want to just purchase the downloads. These are pretty large videos. Takes a couple gigs. You probably want to make sure and have a broadband connection. So again, this is the complete lesson series tutorial set for this keyboard is available at pseudosonic.com. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the capabilities of the Yamaha MODX, and we'll talk about how it fits into Yamaha's lineup of other keyboards and also do some comparison to other keyboards on the market. Now currently the Yamaha MODX retails for around $1,200, I think, and it's quite the value because it has a full color touch screen. It has a lot of great built-in sounds that sound very realistic. It has Yamaha's most recent sound architecture, which is found in the Montage. So it's able to create a lot of the same sounds that the Montage does. Now the Montage is kind of more of a professional keyboard. It's a little bit heavier, has more sliders, has more knobs. It pretty much almost has the same functionality though, and it's kind of interesting that Yamaha released a keyboard that overlaps it so well, but sometimes manufacturer will do something like that whenever their sales are a little bit stagnant. You see it a lot with computers and camera manufacturers as well. They'll do something like that. So I imagine these will sell really well. They came out around the middle of the year, which is great time frame for these because people will be buying and upgrading. So let's talk about some of the overall functionality of the MODX. You may have seen other tutorial videos from Yamaha where they're talking about everything it can do and all the different sounds. They'll be talking about the super knob, how you can turn that and it can change the sounds. But they often in these product videos don't talk about what the keyboard can't do, and sometimes that's as important as what the keyboard can do, and especially if you're deciding if you want to buy it or not. So there's a lot of workstations on the market that have full workstation functionality. So you can sample with them. So that means you could plug a mic in and you could do shouts and chorus phrases or sample other instruments and then use those in a song some way. You can sample beats, you can import waves and loops and things like that and use it to create your song. Well, the MODX doesn't do any of that. It doesn't have any sampling capability. Another thing that a lot of full-blown workstations have is sequencing functionality. You may have heard this word before. Okay, this is where you can take multiple tracks. It's most often 16 tracks. And you can record into those and arrange those. So you can move drum sections, you can move piano sections. You can record something in one instrument and then keep the same notes and change what instrument is being triggered to play for those notes. So you can do full arranging with some of these workstations and arrangers. The MODX doesn't have that functionality as well. It has a sequencer, but it's more of a real-time performance sequencer where you can lay down the track that you're playing and you can have the arpeggios playing in the background and things like that, but you can't go in and edit it. You can't cut it up into different phrases and rearrange it and change it and things like that. So it's kind of more of just a way to lay down song ideas. Now you may be thinking, well, that's pretty limited. You know, this keyboard sounds like it just makes sounds, and that's kind of true. I mean, you can make really good realistic sounds with it. But one other feature is that you do have a pretty extensive arpeggio functionality, so you can have arpeggios on different parts. So the MODX uses different parts in order to have different sounds layered in there. So this one has drums and bass, and with its arpeggio turned on, and if you press the key, you can hear it has bass sounds, synth sounds, drum beats playing in the background, and it's all achieving this with multiple arpeggios. Now, that being said, you can assign different drum phrases and set those up to be in different scenes. So it's a little bit like real-time changing of patterns. So you may see this functionality on other workstations, but you really kind of don't want to think of these as being patterns, because you can't chain them together like on a lot of even drum machines that are in the $150 range. You can program certain patterns to come in and then another pattern to come in. You can't do that with the MODX. You have to press the different scenes in real time, and that's not necessarily that limiting, especially if you have a lot of performances. So you have a lot of presets that already have different drum beats in there, because it allows you to easily build up song ideas. So for instance, if we started with this and then we started switching scenes, so you can see you could easily switch to different scenes. In some instances, you may kind of use this in a performance situation, not performances in sound presets, but like on stage, you being on stage with the keyboard and acting as like a musician or a DJ. So it could be done. The main thing is all the sounds that you're going to extract out of the MODX. So this MODX is marketed as being able to be used with a DAW, so much to the fact that Yamaha has included a copy with a license and a key for Cubase AI. So this is your recording software. And so once you connect the MODX to your computer via USB on the back panel, then you have MIDI functionality, and then you also have audio recording functionality. So you, in some cases with your mixer or computer, you may not have the ability to plug in a guitar or a microphone if you don't have the outboard equipment or the sound card to do that. Well, if you have a MODX, you have an input that can be transmitted through your USB, and it all transmits on one cable, USB cable, to the computer. So you can record audio into the DAW, so digital audio workstation software, and you can send MIDI notes that you play to be recorded to the DAW, and then the DAW can send those back and trigger the sound assignments that are on the different parts of a performance. So you can kind of use that functionality to be able to tweak and make your own sounds, because you have this really cool interface. You can change the mixing, you can go in and you can change some of the filtering on different sounds. If we go to something like this Pearly Gates, you can use the super knob to change some of the filtering and change other dynamics. So it really quickly allows you to interject a lot of variation to sounds. Whereas if you maybe were just using VST instruments, or let's say an older gen keyboard, like something like the Motif ES or something like that, you wouldn't be able to quickly change sounds. You'd have to go in the submenus and adjust filtering and things like that, and that really takes away the experimentation for sounds whenever you really kind of dial in different variations of sounds and just experiment and see what you come up with. So that's harder to do on a lot of other workstations that's not set up like the MODX. So how does the MODX fit into other workstations? So if you compare this to the Montage, very similar. I think the main difference with the Montage is you get more sliders and more knobs right here. There's an array of buttons over on the right hand side that would be to the right of these live set buttons on the Montage. That allows you to jump to different categories, whereas here, if you want to go to different categories, you're going to just click on the category search button and just go to it via the interface on the screen. So in a lot of respects, I don't really think anyone buying the Montage is going to benefit that much by having those buttons to jump to. So let's talk about some of the other top tier workstations. How does it compare to the Kronos, the Korg Kronos? Well, this is a $1,300 keyboard. The Kronos retails for, I think, over $3,000. Obviously, the Kronos has a lot more functionality. With the Kronos, you get Karma functionality. You also get sampling. You get a full-blown sequencer. And then you also have a few more different ways, sound engines inside the Kronos. But the Kronos is a lot more expensive and a lot heavier. So I think what Yamaha is trying to do with this keyboard is fit it into a market that can be used with a laptop to do some sequencing and arranging. So that's why they took the sequencer functionality out of the MODX. So in the next videos in this series, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to navigate all the different sounds. There's quite a few buttons here. There's some other concepts that you may not be familiar with. There's something called a motion sequencer, and that's where you can just change via gates that are set up. Like it's almost like an arpeggiator, but you're changing values of other parameters. So most of the time it'd be filtering, and that allows the MODX to be able to produce sounds that vary over time in a rhythmic fashion, so it would follow the BPM of whatever's programmed into the performance. So that's a concept that's particular to the Montage, and they brought it into the MODX. So we'll cover that. We'll also talk about some arpeggio functionality. We'll talk about programming and changing some of the scenes. We're going to talk about a lot of the functionality for mixing and adjusting effects. We're going to talk about saving favorites. We're going to talk about how to get into doing some recording. You do have a play record tab here, so you can actually, with a USB plugged in, you can record waves, or you can record the real-time playback of a, let's say, a song phrase or anything that you're doing. You just can't edit it. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to discuss how to connect this to Cubase AI, what kind of settings you need to do. It's more than just plugging in the USB. There's a couple features that's in here called Quick Menu, where you can change what you plan on doing, how you're going to work the MODX to the DAW. So you're going to change how some of the MIDI's routed back in and what's being recorded and what's not triggered. So there's some of those settings. So all of that will be covered in the entire series that's available for purchase, and this completes the introductory video to the MODX.